Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Patch. I'm just doing a real quick video on my processing of how I do a lot of my drawings and how much detail goes into it. So this is gonna be a real quick video and just doing a step by step. The first one you do see is what I like to call the rough outlines. I don't try to put a whole lot of detail into it. I just start out with doing small organic shapes, as you can tell, like on the shoulder over here and right over here. I just do a lot of lines and circles and just to get more of a feel of the angle of what I want to do. So whenever I start doing a drawing, I usually think in my mind's eye first, like how I want it to look first. If I can't necessarily see the character in a certain position or anything like that, then I don't even really waste my time, because then all I'm doing is just spinning my wheels on what I'm doing as a drawing. So a lot of people try to ask me also, like, where I get my ideas and references from on my line work and everything else. And I usually tell a lot of folks that it's a mix of a lot of things. I don't necessarily try to mimic one particular artist. I try to take small items that I really like that stands out in their art and try to incorporate that in my own way. So these are the two comics right here that I can do that as my references. This one is a current running line, which I'm not really a huge big fan of, just because it's really plain. As you can tell, it's very easy to do, and it is convenient to put those kind of lines at, but there's really no dynamic into it. It's just kind of one of the things where they just copy paste and use 3D models, and it doesn't have a whole lot of depth or organic feel to it. On the side is a comic issue from the late 80s, early 90s from two of my favorite guys, Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane. And as you can tell, it's a little more in depth, even if it's just a couple faces and Cable not doing a whole lot. But if you look really closely, you see how much detail goes into the line work. So that's what I try to do with my art. I don't necessarily try to do an exact one-for-one incorporation of it, because obviously, as you can tell, going back to my drawing that I'm working on, it's more of trying to get a feel of trying to tell a story within a couple lines really quick. So I don't necessarily try to do a one-for-one on the line work. It's more depending what the motion is doing and what the action is doing. That's why I incorporate my lines with it. So I'm working on Domino right now, and as I said, this is the early stages of it. I don't necessarily have a huge idea with how it's going to look in details yet. As it goes along, I do small minor adjustments here and there, but I don't put a whole lot of detail within the first couple rough lines, just because I learned a long time ago, and I've been drawing for about 25 years now, and I barely started drawing comics for last August, that the more time you spend on certain line work on a detail. So let's say I was working on the face first, and I started putting all the details into the face, including the shading, the line work, the ins and outs of everything. You come to realize that the rest of your art is going to suffer, because then you start getting lazy and you start rushing through it. So I rush through doing the rough lines first to get the full layout in about, I'd say, 30 minutes to an hour, give or take, on on how big and how extravagant I want to make it and how dynamic I want to make it pop out. So with that, it usually takes about an hour. Today, when I get a chance to, I'm going to start working on the rough line, and I'll show you how that starts looking when I put a little more details to it. Eventually, when I get better equipment to actually have something to hold my phone up, then I can start doing like a step-by-step tutorial of me actually drawing through my stuff, and I'll show you the processes that I do with everything and all the references I go with it. So if you have any questions or if you have any comments, like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff, and I will post another video up later on.